As dusk falls in the province of Faron, two men sit at a sacred spring. Water cascades down several terraces to a pool below. As they gaze upon the water, one of the men speaks. "Tell me, do you ever feel a strange sadness as dusk falls?" he asks. "They say it's the only time when our world intersects with theirs. The only time when we can feel the lingering regrets of spirits who have left our world. That is why loneliness always pervades the hour of twilight." The man who is speaking is Russell. He's older than his companion, but not quite middle-aged. He's square-jawed, bearded, and clearly has seen the world. His companion Link is younger, with a sharp, clean-shaven jaw and sharp blue eyes. Russell has been tasked by the mayor of their village to deliver a sword as a gift to the king in the neighboring land of Hyrule. Their home of Ordon province is just outside of Hyrule proper, but apparently it is a vassal and pays fealty to its larger neighbor. Russell wishes Link to go in his stead. He believes he should see the wider world. Link agrees to go. He will depart in roughly 2 days. Having agreed to the task, the pair head south to their home. Thus begins Twilight Princess, the 13th mainline game in the Legend of Zelda series, and the subject of the 12th season of Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. Today we explore Link's village before diving into the Twilight and the Forest Temple. I don't think it's any secret that the opening of Twilight Princess is widely considered to be long, slow, and a little boring. I personally agree with those sentiments. I can remember feeling bored with the opening of the game from the very first time that I played it back in 2007. Though that may be because I played it on GameCube. I didn't have a Wii when the game was first released. I mentioned last episode how the developers stated series co-creator Shigeru Miyamoto reworked the opening to what it is today, for the benefit of Wii players. It's all designed to ease Wii players into what would have been at the time an unfamiliar way of controlling a video game. But the developers felt it wound up benefiting the story as well. Writer Ayaki Goku stated in an Iwata-asked interview, "It's not only easier for the first-time player to become familiar with the Wii Remote, but in terms of the story, the player will be drawn straight into the world of Zelda. As a result, I'm really glad that we made those changes." For this playthrough, I completed the original GameCube version of the game, and the HD remaster on Wii U. I played the HD version in Hero Mode, which results in the game being mirrored like the Wii version to get a taste of what it would be like to play that Wii version. Though, to be honest, I never much cared for that version. I bought it after first playing through Skyward Sword sometime in 2012. I wanted to experience more motion-controlled Zelda action, and I found that I really didn't care for the implementation of the motion controls in Twilight Princess. I don't think I ever completed the Wii version of the game. The HD version allows for some motion control, primarily gyro aiming, and the mirrored game world while still providing a more traditional control scheme like the game was originally designed for. Link's home sits just outside the village proper. After reaching his home and saying goodbye to Russell, Link ventures inside, leaving his horse tied up outside. Unbeknownst to him, a young barefoot woman approaches and takes his horse, venturing off to the north. Nearly as soon as she disappears, an angular, solidly built man approaches. He yells up to Link. This is Fado. He wants Link to help herd the village goats. This is where we first take control and the game's tutorial truly begins. This version of Link is a ranch hand. He starts the game in his everyday civilian clothes. This is the second time that Link has started the game out wearing something other than his iconic green tunic. But it's the first time that Link has had a definable job at the start of the game. Director Eiji Aonuma told Edge magazine in 2005 that the decision to make Link a cowboy came from Shigeru Miyamoto's love of Western movies. Over a number of interviews, Aonuma and other staff, such as player-character designer Keisuke Nishimori, referred to Link as a cowboy, though a GameSpot article from 2005 clarifies he's not the gunslinging cowboy like Clint Eastwood played in the movies. The GameSpot article suggested a shepherd might be a more appropriate term. Though, if we're being honest, Link slides into a role pretty similar to a gunslinger as the story continues. It's notable that Aonuma directed both games to this point that start with Link as an average person, those being The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. He told Edge magazine in 2005, "I really want one of the ordinary boys to become the hero in the end. So whenever I start the game, there is a boy who is one of the ordinary boys. You can find him all around. Of course, he has some destiny, but he doesn't know that, and he has to understand that he has to face the destiny anyway, and he has to overcome it to become the real hero of the game. That kind of storyline is always what I really want to describe in the Legend of Zelda series. So, who Link is this time is not very important for me at the very beginning. The important thing is that he's an anonymous guy, and that he's going to face a huge destiny that he has to overcome in order to kind of morph himself into the hero. In order to herd the goats, Link must first retrieve his horse. It's found at Ordon Spring, just north of his home. This is similar to the spring that we saw Russell and Link visiting at the start of the game, but smaller. The person who took the horse is a woman around Link's age. She has shoulder-length hair which swoops to one side. Her name is Ilia. Though it's never said outright, it seems clear that she and Link have feelings for one another, and she expresses her care for Link by fussing over his horse. Ilia's musical theme is even a variation of Epona's theme played on flute, with a soft electric piano backing that seems only to emphasize the tender, romantic feelings that Ilia and Link have one another, expressed through a horse. Ilia took the horse to wash it in the spring. She asked Link to use a piece of grass to play a song that the horse likes in order to call it. It's a tutorial for how Link will call his horse for most of the game. By plucking a tuft of horse grass, which has a curved whistle-shaped reed at the end, Link can call his faithful steed. Having reobtained his horse, Link can head south to the village. The village is called Ordon in the English localization. It's known as Tauru Village in Japan. In a 2005 interview with Edge magazine, Aonuma explained that Tauru means something like anonymous or certain in Japanese. That idea was translated in the localization of the game into the name Ordon, which seems to be a fairly clear play on the word ordinary. Just swap the I for an O and drop the suffix and you have the name. The music of the village is gentle, with rolling arpeggios and a rolling melody played on flute. A soft, gentle horn takes over the melody for the bridge. It fits a small-town feel and suggests that Ordon is a simple place where nothing truly bad ever happens. As players make their way through the village, there are various characters to speak and interact with. We also start to see a clear design trend in the non-playable characters. The game's overall character design was headed up by illustrator Yusuke Nakano, but artist Satomi Asikawa headed up the non-player character design team. She worked on previous Zelda titles like Ocarina of Time, where she designed the owl Kaepora Gaebora, and the Bombchu Alley Girl, and Majora's Mask, where she designed the monkeys and Pamela. In a 2005 article for Nintendo Power, she explained her goals for the character design in Twilight Princess. She said, "My hope is to create strange, cunning characters for the game. It's a unique combination, but I hope to turn my fantasy into reality with this project. Such characters can also elicit fear from players. Think Disney's Alice in Wonderland, one of my all-time favorite animated movies, and you'll get a sense of what I'm going for. All of its characters were colorful and vivid, but the fact that they inhabit dark, moody environments makes them very strange." She added, "My workmates always think that I like to create chubby creatures. I've got to agree. Chubby, love it. And blockheads, that's another favorite." Throughout the game, it's easy to notice that there are several chubby characters, and characters with square, angular heads. Take the first three characters we meet inside the village. Sarah the shop owner, her daughter Beth, and her husband Hanch. Sarah is a plump woman. Her husband is thin and small with a squared-off head. Sarah mentions monkeys have been causing trouble in the village lately. As we make our way to the ranch, we also pass by Russell, who is practicing his sword skills. His son Colin and wife Uli are also there. They mention Colin is making a fishing rod for Link. Mayor Bo is the final character we run into before reaching the ranch. He's bald and built like a sumo wrestler. He encourages Link to quickly finish his chores at the ranch. After arriving at the ranch, players take on a goat herding minigame. While riding on their horse, players work to guide 10 goats into a barn. Link's able to whoop and help move the goats along. The entire first day of the opening 3-day sequence is all based around Link's horse. We started by learning to call it, then rode it through the narrow roads of Ordon, and now we get to ride the horse in a wide open area for the first time. There's a reason for this focus on the horse gameplay. In a 2005 preview on GameSpot, Aonuma said the developers felt it was important to establish Link as a proficient horseman right out of the gate. It's all part of the cowboy theming of the game. Lead player character designer Keisuke Nishimori said in an Iwata-asked interview that at Miyamoto's urging, he, the horse designer, and the animator responsible for the horse went for a day of horse riding. He said they went to an American-style equestrian center because it was a much better fit for the spirit of Twilight Princess, because Link is much more like a cowboy in this game. He continued, "What a difference working with live animals makes over simply viewing pictures or videos. You don't get the sense of how powerful and immense a real horse is until you're dwarfed by one. That experience really strengthened my belief that you can heighten the realism of a game by exaggerating the size and action of things." He mentioned exaggeration to enhance a feeling of realism. That brings up a point the developers emphasized over multiple interviews, previews, and speeches. It all has to do with what the developers mean when they describe Twilight Princess as a realistic Zelda. They all stated they were not trying to create a photorealistic game, but rather a realistic atmosphere. This quote from Eiji Aonuma's 2004 GDC speech I think sums it up well. You'll hear the voice of translator Bill Trinan.
Zelda is a game that values reality over realism. In the art world, realism is a movement to faithfully replicate the real world to whatever extent possible. Reality, though, is not mimicking the real world, but rather attempting to make players feel like what they are experiencing is real.
The horse riding mechanics in general are pretty similar to Ocarina of Time, but they feel better here. Controlling the horse is much smoother. That trip to the equestrian center really paid off. After Link rounds up the goats, Fado sets up a fence to practice jumping. Players need to jump over the fence in order to exit the ranch and end the first day. On day 2, Link is awoken by 3 kids outside his home. Hey! The kids are Beth, Tallow, and Mallow. Beth we met on the first day. She's the daughter of Sarah, the shop owner. Tallow and Mallow are characters we're meeting for the first time. Their home has a water wheel on the side. It was locked on the first day. Tallow and Mallow are excited that Sarah is selling a slingshot, but they don't have any money. That sets our task for the second day: buy the slingshot. While the first day was focused on Link's horse, the second day is focused on Link himself and his abilities while on foot. Link has the day off, which means that his horse does too. Colin stands apart from the other kids. It's clear he's not part of the in-group. He enforces Link's day off by not letting him ride his horse. He also mentions his dad said that Link must come and get the fishing rod that he made for him, meaning that we'll have to go into the village and find Colin's mother in order to get it. In order to get the slingshot, Link will need to round up 30 rupees. He'll also need to cheer up Sarah. She's depressed after her cat did not return home. Apparently, the night before, her cat ate the family's fish dinner, and she scolded it. Outside Sarah's shop, we meet Hanch. He's eyeing a beehive. He hopes to knock it down so he can harvest the larva as fishing bait to stock Sarah's store. Just south of Sarah's shop, there are a couple of stone pillars that stand nearly as tall as the building. Tallow and Mallow's father stands atop one of those pillars. His name is Jaggle. He's stocky with a square head. He's there to teach Link how to Z-target. He asks players to lock onto him and speak to him from a distance. This particular tutorial we can't skip by climbing a vine-covered wall up to him. Once at the top of the pillar, Jaggle points out Sarah's cat. He's on the far side of a pond behind Sarah's shop, next to Jaggle's house. The cat is staring into the pond at the fish. With this hint, we should know that we need to catch a fish for the cat in order to cheer up Sarah and get the slingshot. The fishing rod is in the possession of Colin's mom, Uli. We can find her further south next to the stream. She's pregnant, which I believe is a first for the series. I can't recall any pregnant characters in the series to this point. Her baby cradle is missing. She's obviously concerned about it, and she won't hand over the fishing rod until she gets it back. Jaggle also points out a patch of hawk grass on a pillar next to the one that he's standing on. It's located on that next pillar over so players get a tutorial on the auto jump system. Hawk grass is similar to horse grass, but rather than calling a horse, it calls a hawk, as the name implies. It seems that Link is skilled in falconry, in addition to riding and herding goats. The hawk is the game's first introduction to aiming, which of course was done with motion controls on the Wii, and can be done with gyro motion on the Wii U. After Link calls the hawk, he can aim at various targets around the world, and then send it flying at them. If it's an object the hawk can pick up, it will also take that item and return it to Link. Players have a choice here. They can use the hawk to knock down the beehive for Hanch. This will open up a path for players to grab 15 rupees from the top of a tree. After players get a bottle, they'll also be able to harvest fishing bait from the hive. It's worth noting that for rupee values 5 and greater, the game will stop and give Link a bit of tutorial text on the value of the rupee the very first time he collects it for each play session. I suspect that was put in there to try to make the game less intimidating to non-video gamers, but it really just serves to break up the flow and the pacing of the game. Thankfully, this was removed from the HD version. If players ignore the beehive, they can trigger a unique cutscene on the third day. In it, Hanch throws a rock at the hive and is chased by a swarm of bees into the pond. The hawk is also needed to retrieve Uli's cradle. It's in the possession of a monkey. We need to hop from the pillar with the hawk grass to the roof of Sarah's shop, then cross the roof to reach an additional pillar that sits in the pond. On this far pillar, there's another patch of hawk grass. A monkey can be seen in the distance holding the cradle. We can recall that Sarah said that monkeys were coming into the village and causing trouble. Using the hawk, we can retrieve this cradle. Despite the game heavily tutorializing the hawk grass at this point, we will never again be required to call a hawk in the game. Uli thanks Link for returning the cradle, and asks him to carry it back to her house so that she can give him the fishing rod. We're intended to walk alongside her, but she moves slowly. We can't just run ahead to her house by following the path, and making sure that we don't cross the river. Uli will reach her house the moment that we do, and give Link the fishing rod. We can take it and then go catch the fish for the cat. This marks the point where it's worth noting some additional changes between the original and the HD versions of the game. The first has to do with the inventory screen. In the original game, Link's inventory is laid out on a circular screen, rather than the grid-light display of past games. Aonuma told GameSpot in 2005 this was done to prevent players from being able to count precisely how many items they have left to discover in the game, as this information was often a semi-spoiler that detailed how far you had to go before you could finish the game. In the HD version, the items are laid out on a grid on the gamepad screen, and like the Wind Waker HD, players can touch and drag an item on the screen to assign it to a button, allowing them to equip items without having to pause. The fishing controls are also different between the two games. In the original, players press down the C stick to reel in a fish. In the HD version, they press the button the fishing rod is assigned to. This throws me off every time I play. In the original version, Link has to catch 2 fish. For whatever reason, the first fish does not count towards completing the quest, and trigger the cat to return to Sarah's shop. I've never understood why this is. In a 2007 Nintendo Dream interview with Eiji Aonuma, the interviewer said they believed many people had problems with the cat puzzle. Aonuma responded, "That's the point Mr. Miyamoto and I were concerned with, but in the end we thought it wouldn't work if the player was given the answer right from the beginning." He added, "If you can't solve the cat puzzle, you can't advance in the game. Many items were introduced in this village, and the curiosity of trying out many things with them will be useful later in the game. That's how a Zelda game is. Its foundation is trying out many things to solve the puzzles. In order for the player to understand that foundation, you can't just have a character in the village telling him exactly what he must do to solve the cat puzzle. But to tell you the truth, in the beginning, it was just like that." He laughed. "I can't recall ever having issues with the puzzle, but being forced to catch 2 fish because the first one doesn't count towards solving the puzzle is annoying. Once the cat has the fish, it runs back to Sarah's shop." Of course, getting the cat to return to Sarah's shop is only part of what players need to do to get the slingshot. Obviously, they also need to round up at least 30 rupees. I actually did that before I caught the fish. There are rupees hidden all around the village. Players can find them by rolling into trees, smashing pumpkins and rocks and pots, even using a patch of hawk grass atop the mayor's house. Using the hawk from this particular spot, players can grab a chicken in order to glide to a nearby cliff. I should also note that while the tutorialization is pretty heavy and formalized, and generally required during this first part of the game, there is one tutorial that is optional and can be missed. And it's surprising that it can. If players talk to the mayor, a loose goat will escape the ranch, giving Link a chance to grab it and throw it. You'll recall from the last episode that this particular feature was added at the request of Shigeru Miyamoto, and it influenced a number of elements throughout the game. Inside her shop, Sarah is in good spirits now that her cat has returned. She believes it caught the fish all by itself. She's in such a good mood, she gives Link a free bottle of milk. This is the earliest that players have ever received a bottle in a Zelda game that features them. I haven't seen anything specifically saying this, but I suspect the reason the developers chose to give Link a bottle this early is because players are able to fish in virtually any body of water in Twilight Princess. This way players have something that they can keep bait in. I rarely if ever fish, so I personally don't use bait. However, this early bottle is incredibly useful in a hero mode playthrough, because the recovery heart drops are removed, so players need to rely on potions and health restoring items. After buying the slingshot, we return to Link's house. We run into Russell just outside Link's home. He says he just delivered something to Link's room. There's a spider on the ladder to Link's house. We need to take it out before we can go inside. I think we're intended to talk to the kids first and do the slingshot tutorial, but I just took the spider out and went inside. A chest holds Russell's gift. It's a wooden sword. We can't advance without completing 2 tutorials by talking to the kids outside. The first is a slingshot tutorial. Players need to shoot a number of targets. It's clearly designed to further help ease players on the Wii into aiming with motion controls. In fact, I noted in the last episode that writer Aya Kiyogoku mentioned in a Wada Asks interview that the entire reason the slingshot is in the game at all is because Miyamoto added it when he reworked the opening to Ordon Village into its current 3-day setup. It's worth noting the tutorial music. It's a bouncy, fun piece. It's also the first appearance of a prominent musical theme in the game, which represents Link. It's the B section of what I refer to as Link's Courage theme. Composer Toru Minegishi refers to it as the Advantageous theme. We'll see why when we reach the boss fight of the first dungeon. It's one of the major musical themes, or leitmotifs really, that define Twilight Princess's soundtrack. It's one of the most frequently used, and it's associated with the player character Link. Everything here is light, fun, and non-threatening, but later in the game we'll hear grander, bigger versions. After the slingshot tutorial, we need to complete a second tutorial, teaching players how to use the sword. The Wind Waker also featured a formal required sword tutorial, so I can't say that this was placed here entirely for the benefit of Wii players, but it might have been. As soon as players complete the tutorial, Tallow notices one of the monkeys who have been causing trouble in the village. He quickly chases after it, with Beth and Mallow following close behind. What follows, in my opinion, is a bright spot in what is an otherwise fairly slow and dull opening. Players must give chase in order to keep the kids safe. We find Beth and Mallow not far away, but Tallow has continued the chase. At the border between Ordon and Faron provinces, we find a fence that we cannot pass on foot. Some horse grass nearby allows us to call Link's horse. And we can then jump over the fence. Just north of Faron Spring, we find a dark cave, which the horse will not enter. There's an alternate path leading to the home of Faron Province's lone human resident. His name is Koro. He has a large afro which birds have nested in. Koro sells lantern oil. He gives Link a lantern for free. It's a business tactic to get him to buy more oil from him. The lantern works much like it did in past games. It will light up dark areas and can be used to light torches and burn spider webs. Just inside the mouth of the dark cave, Link finds Tallow's play sword. The lantern's a big help moving through this cave, which has Deku Babas and rats inside. On the other side of the cave, we reach a wider forest area. There are more enemies among the trees, including Deku Babas, bats, and bokoblins. A gate to the west, or east in the Wii and HD Hero Mode versions, is locked. Players need to find a key in the cave to the north. It's in a small chest between 2 torches. If we light the torches, a large chest appears with a heart piece inside. Twilight Princess stands apart from all other games in the series with pieces of heart in it, in that it requires 5 pieces to complete a heart container. Through the gate to the west, or is that east, players find a path which leads to a structure built within the hollowed remains of a giant tree. Along the way, they pass a potion shop. It's run by a blue toucan with a mass of feathers atop its head which resemble an afro. This is Trill. The hairdo implies a connection to Koro, though I don't recall seeing anything in the game confirming that. The shop has suggested prices outlined on a sign, but it's really a pay-what-you-want kind of place. Sure, Trill will call you a cheapskate if you underpay, but he really won't stop you. You can even steal, though you will be attacked by Trill when you return later. I honestly don't use the shop much, but it does come in handy in hero mode. Tallow and the monkey are held inside a cage just outside the structure within the tree, which is obviously a dungeon. 2 bokoblins are guarding the prisoners. We've walked up to the door of the first dungeon, but Link doesn't even think about going inside. Freeing Tallow and the monkey triggers the end of the second day. Tallow mentions the monkey turned out to be friendly and even tried to protect him from the bokoblins. He urges Link not to tell his parents what happened so he can stay out of trouble. Russell arrives as soon as Tallow leaves and mentions the woods seem uneasy with something on the horizon. Link is set to depart for Hyrule on the following day. The third day begins on the ranch. Before he leaves for Hyrule, Fado asks for Link's help getting the goats into the barn. Players are again asked to use a piece of horse grass to call their horse, and once again they must play through the goat herding minigame. This time there are 24 goats to round up. Once the goats are rounded up, Fado once again sets up the fences, and players are once again tasked with jumping over a fence in order to leave the ranch. Upon leaving the ranch, Link is greeted by Ilya and Mayor Bo. The mayor mentions the gift that Link is set to deliver to Hyrule was requested by the royal family, so it's real special. The music that plays is a variation of the Ordon theme, but it's faster with a steady string backing forming chords that have a slight edge to them, a hint of discord that reflects the anxiety of Ilya. As Ilya fusses over Link's horse, she claims to notice a small injury. She scolds Link for jumping fences with the horse, and her father for trying to say that it's not a big deal. Link and the mayor share a look with each other before Ilya takes the horse and leaves. She is again headed for the Ordon Spring, and we must again get our horse back. Just outside Link's house, we find the children. Colin is feeling down because the other kids are mad at him for telling the adults in the village that Tallow had chased the monkey and ran into Faron Woods. He asks to come with Link to see Ilya. Tallow and Mallow block the path to the spring. They won't move unless we give them Link's wooden sword. The spring is closed with a gate. Colin can crawl through it, but Link must go through a small hole to get inside. While in the Wind Waker, Link could crouch and crawl at will anywhere on the map. Twilight Princess reverts back to a system like Ocarina of Time. Link must stand before specific holes to crawl through them, and then press the action button to start crawling. This first cave has a turn in it, which suggests that we might run into some of the more complex maze-like holes that were found in the Wind Waker, but that never turns out to be the case. This is, to my memory, the only hole in the game with a turn in it, and there's no choice on where to go. After talking things over with Colin and learning more about Link's rescue of Tallow, Ilya agrees to allow Link to leave. The injury on the horse is not a big deal. She urges Link to be safe, further showing that she expresses her feelings for him by fussing over his horse. Suddenly, there is a sound of galloping hooves, and monstrous riders burst through the gate. It's a pack of boblins. These are medium-sized goblins, similar to bokoblins, but they have horns on the side of their heads. Their horns resemble those of a bull, hence the name. They sometimes ride on the backs of massive boars called bulbos. They attack Link, Ilya, and Colin. The boblins grab Colin and Ilya. For reasons unknown, Link is ignored. Then, their king, also atop a great boar, rides in. He blows a horn. A strange portal appears in the sky. It's angular with an almost digital outline to it. It has veins of red energy which run through it. Link regains consciousness and gives chase. At the border of Faron Province, he finds a strange wall of darkness. It has glowing orange symbols that form like veins in it. As Link stands before it, a shadowy hand reaches out from the darkness and drags him inside. The symbols disappear from the wall of darkness, and it turns black. The shadowy creature, which now has a hold of Link, has its face hidden by a shield-like mask. It has long tendrils peeking out from behind the shield, like hair and a beard. Its shadowy body features glowing red veins. As Link is held in its grasp, the symbol of the Triforce on his hand begins to glow. The light repulses the creature and makes it drop Link to the ground. Link is in obvious discomfort on his hands and knees, and he finds a change suddenly takes over him. Link transforms into a wolf and loses consciousness once again. The strange creature then drags Link away. Another figure watches the scene from a distance. Link awakens inside a jail cell. His leg is shackled in the center of the room. We're given a chance to control Link, but with the shackle on his leg, we can't move really anywhere. After a moment, a cutscene begins. As Link struggles against his chains, the figure we saw watching him earlier appears. It's an imp. She's small in stature with a large head. Her skin is patterned with black and white patches. She has glowing blue vein designs on her body. Her hair is red and pulled back in a ponytail. She wears a horned helmet which covers one eye. The covered eye has a carving of an eye over it. Her smile reveals rows of straight teeth broken up by a single, overly large canine tooth on one side. This is Midna. She's able to easily enter Link's cell using her magic. Link is uneasy and growls, but he softens up to Midna when she suggests that she plans to help him. Midna's motivations aren't exactly clear. She's condescending to Link, and clearly has her own goals in mind. She even uses magic to break Link's chain. Midna then tasks Link with escaping the cell. She promises that if he does, she might tell him where he is. It's worth pausing for just a moment here to take notice of Midna's musical theme. It, along with what I call Link's courage theme, are the two most prominent leitmotifs in the game. When Midna is first introduced, it's backed by tense strings. The melody is dark, slinky, mysterious, and a little melancholy. It's led by a three-note motif that has similar contours to Zelda's theme. We'll see Midna's theme in a variety of arrangements throughout the game. In a YouTube video posted by Nintendo of America, composer Toru Minegishi is quoted saying the prompt he was given to create the theme was sad but ominous, familiar but elusive for Midna. I'd say that he succeeded. The escape is pretty simple, but it marks the first time we get to test out how Link moves as a wolf and use his unique wolf abilities. There is a box against the bars in the corner. We destroy the box and use Wolf Link's ability to dig to shimmy under the bars. Midna hops on Link's back and rides him like a horse. She says she will get Link out if he does exactly what she says. This is players' first chance to experience the Twilight Realm. The lighting of the Twilight Realm is dim. The music is sickly and uneasy. The opening is obviously electronic with a discordant synth melody over a synth ostinato. It gives way to bells and drunken, discordant-sounding synth strings, which only enhance the feeling of unease. Aonuma spoke about the atmosphere and the music of the Twilight with Nintendo Dream in 2007. The translation was published on ZeldaDungeon.net. He said, "It had to be unpleasant enough to make you feel uncomfortable after spending some time there, but not too unpleasant to discourage you from continue playing. We drew that thin line at the appropriate background music, discordant with an unpleasant echo, but with a melodious flow. I asked the staff for a melody that was a little unpleasant, not too much, that would make you feel the atmosphere, and they were confused. They didn't know what kind of melody to compose." He laughed. But in the end, we got a beautiful musical piece. The first segment of the Twilight is of course a tutorial for Link's wolf form. We start by getting the first of many prompts to use Link's wolf senses. A press of the X button allows him to see things that humans can't. We're introduced to this by Link finding a spirit of a soldier who is cowering in fear. The area we find ourselves in is also the first truly dungeon-like area of the game. Players need to navigate through a sewer. The water level is low at first. Link must first raise it to swim over a set of spikes on the ground. Then he must lower it again to escape. There are chains hanging from the ceiling. Midna highlights them when we get close. Her hair turns into a massive hand. When Link grabs these chains, they open a door. Players need to open a gate to allow water to spill in and flood the area, then open a second gate to drain the area. They need to notice the chains to pull are right near the gates. There are other chains which will open side areas that may have a few rupees or recovery hearts to collect or enemies. The enemies in the sewer are small masses of black tentacles that have red highlights on them, not unlike the creature that pulled Link into the Twilight and imprisoned him. Midna notes that despite the change in shape, Link's fighting ability is largely unchanged. And it's true, the button assignments are largely unchanged, and Link can still perform a spin attack and a jump attack, in addition to standard attacks with the B button. Once out of the sewer, Link and Midna scale a crumbling spiral staircase. As players attempt to climb the staircase, it crumbles. Midna scolds players for doing what's required to advance the game, and introduces a new ability for Wolf Link. At specific points in the world, Midna will fly to a nearby point, and then Link can target her and jump to her. We use this, along with an ability to tightrope walk that is strangely limited to Wolf Link, in order to scale a staircase. Midna is still teasing Link about his location. Where could he be? We exit onto the roof of a castle. The sky is a sickly yellow, with strange black particles floating through the air. They're square in shape, making them strangely digital and otherworldly. Midna directs Link to a tower to meet somebody. Another spirit of a soldier confirms we're in Hyrule Castle. We cross the roof, making further use of Midna's jump ability, while fighting bird-like creatures that have deep, horn-like calls, despite not having a definable head. Instead, where a head should be, there's a peeled-back mass revealing a glowing red design on the interior stump of the neck. We re-enter the castle through a tower window and advance up the tower. A door at the top is slightly ajar, allowing us to enter. Inside the tower, Link and Midna find a figure cloaked in a black robe with a hood staring out the window. Unlike all the other humans Link has found here to this point, this is not a spirit. Link growls and the figure turns, revealing that it is a woman, though her face is still largely hidden. Link instantly calms down and becomes trusting. Midna rolls her eyes. The woman has met Midna before and intuits that she was searching for Link. She apologizes to Link for the fact that he was imprisoned. "Don't you think that you should explain what you've managed to do? You owe him that much, Twilight Princess," Midna taunts. The woman ignores the taunt and does indeed begin to explain. She says the kingdom of Hyrule was once blessed by the gods, but it was transformed by the King of the Twilight into a realm of shadows. In a flashback, we see the Princess Zelda and her soldiers in the throne room of a castle, ready for battle. Their swords are drawn, shields are raised. Zelda herself is armed with a sword. A column of black smoke shoots through the door and fills the room. Out of the smoke, dark creatures, shadow beasts like the one that captured Link, pour out. The soldiers fight, but quickly fall. All are defeated except for a few who stand beside Zelda at the throne. The King of Twilight enters. A ghastly shriek is heard as he appears. He is completely hidden under a grotesque helmet with a pointed head. It has bulging eyes, a large sharp nose, and two strange curling shapes suggesting a tongue filling its mouth. He offers the princess a choice: surrender or die. It's a choice that he says applies to all the land of Hyrule. Zelda drops her sword, which clatters to the ground. Outside, we see that the castle is in flames. The people of the kingdom look on from a central square in Castle Town. As they do, the light changes to that sickly yellow of twilight, and strange digital particles begin to fly. The people are turned to spirits. In the present, the hooded woman reveals that she is in fact Zelda. She pulls back her hood to reveal her face. Eiji Aonuma explained a bit about Zelda's appearance in this game in a 2005 interview with GameSpot. He mentioned the robe that she wears is based on a robe that's traditionally associated with funerals in Japan. She is in mourning for her country. Zelda mentions the shadow beasts are searching for Midna. Why, we don't know. Midna continues to be evasive about her goals and motivations. Zelda then warns a guard will soon be making rounds to check on her. She urges Midna and Link to flee. We do so. Link and Midna escape the castle. On the roof, Midna agrees to return Link to Ordon, but she reminds him that Colin and Ilia were kidnapped. Taking their forms as a way to taunt him, Midna says that she will help rescue them, but only if Link becomes her servant. She then teleports him away, saying that she'll give him some time to think it over. Link dissolves into black square particles and disappears. A portal forms in the sky. It looks like the one that was created by King Bulblin, but it has blue veins running through it instead of red. Link reforms in Ordon Spring. He's still a wolf, which the voice of Midna is quick to remind him of. She says he won't be changing back anytime soon. Link cannot see the source of the voice. Eagle-eyed players may notice something strange about Link's shadow. As Link turns to leave the spring, his shadow springs to life, leaving his body and taking the shape of Midna. She explains that Link cannot enter the Twilight unless being pulled in by a being from the Twilight, such as herself. So she says Link really has no choice but to do what she says. She tasks him with finding a sword and shield. We return to Ordon Village. A pair of Bulblins are posted up outside of Link's house. We take them out. But when we turn to go deeper into the village, we're stopped by a voice. It belongs to a squirrel. It thanks us for defeating the monsters. It says the monsters kidnapped the village children and made a mess of things. But it can tell by Link's scent that he is not one of them. The squirrel encourages Link to talk to the animals if he runs into trouble. Link's interaction with animals was something that Aonuma wanted to be a focus of the game. He told Edge magazine, "In the past, these animals were there in order for us to describe the human history or the human story. But this time I was thinking about putting more emphasis on encountering the animals." Link is going to encounter many animals in the course of the game, and sometimes animals are going to give him a helping hand. But of course, it's not always easy. He has to learn how. In the last season, I felt Link's ability to speak to animals may have been inspired, at least in part, by the Minish Cap. In that game, Link could speak to animals when he was Minish-sized. Aonuma was of course a producer on the Minish Cap, and he had some input on the development. He also likewise suggested in his 2007 speech at GDC that he hoped his work on the Minish Cap would help with the dual-world aspect of Twilight Princess, as there were a lot of struggles with the development of this game. However, in that Edge magazine article from 2005, Aonuma suggested a different inspiration. He said series co-creator Shigeru Miyamoto likely had an influence on the animal interactions. He noted, "Mr. Miyamoto himself has a dog at his house, and he enjoys himself communicating with the dog. Probably we have some influence from Mr. Miyamoto here." When we enter the village proper, we see Hanch. He seems to be praying that nothing has happened to the children. Across the bridge near Jaggle's house, Mayor Bo and Jaggle are having a conversation. They're whispering between each other. We need to eavesdrop on them. This requires hiding in the long grass and getting close enough that we can hear them, but not close enough that they will notice Link. The mayor reveals that Jaggle was making a shield in his house. Jaggle says it's in his storage loft. They also mention that Russell was wounded badly. We assume by fighting monsters. The sword that was intended to be a gift to the royal family is still at Russell's house. Once their important information is revealed, the mayor and Jaggle notice Link and run away. We need to get the shield first. If we head to Russell's house without the shield, we'll find that it's empty with no sword in sight. To get into Jaggle's house, we have to use Midna's jumping ability, but she won't allow us to jump until after we've been spotted by Hanch. If we walk into the light near him, he will spot Link and summon a hawk and attack him with it. After the attack, Midna will allow us to use her jumping ability from an outcropping of rock near Sarah's shop. We can get on top of her shop. We can then scare Hanch away and use Midna's jump to cross over the water to reach the open window on Jaggle's house. Once inside, we use Midna's jump to reach the loft. We bump into the wall to jostle the shield off and claim it. As soon as we're back outside, there's a cutscene with Russell and Uli outside their home. Russell plans to search for the children one last time. He mentions that he placed the sword inside the house, and then he sets off. He walks slowly and holds a torch. We need to stay out of the light in order to reach the side of his home. There is a spot where an animal has obviously been digging on the side. We can use Link's wolf senses to find it if needed. We use this spot to dig into the home. Once inside, we can take the sword. Then we exit the village, being sure to stay out of sight of Russell. Midna says she'll take Link back to the Twilight, so we head for Faron. As Link passes by Ordon Spring, he is stopped and called to the spring by a voice. Once in the spring, pillars suddenly fall from the sky, and a magical barrier forms between them. A portal opens up in the sky, and a single shadow beast drops out of it. When Link defeats the beast, it explodes into square particles with blue edges, which in turn form a portal in the sky with blue accents. The spring erupts with light. Pillars of rock begin to glow with blue linework designs. and a sphere of light splashes out of the water. Around this sphere, the protector of the spring appears, the light spirit, Ordona. Ordona resembles a goat, though not any goat seen in this world. It does, however, match the goats of Ordon. It explains that it's one of 4 light spirits tasked with protecting Hyrule. It says the Shadow Beast came to seize Ordona's light. The other 3 light spirits had their light stolen. Ordona says if not stopped, the Twilight will engulf not just Hyrule, but the entire world. The spirit tasks Link with reviving the other 3 light spirits. We're told Link will regain his human form if he's able to free the light spirit of the province where he was first transformed. In this case, Faron. Link and Midna press on to Faron province. There is a wall of black awaiting them, and Midna pulls Link through it. Once in the Twilight, Midna regains her physical form. She says she'll hold onto the sword and shield for Link, and agrees to help him lift the Twilight off Faron province. But she says that in return, Link must help her as well. What exactly Midna plans or is after remains unclear. As Link approaches Faron Spring, another portal appears in the sky. This time 3 Shadow Beasts fall out. Midna flees, leaving Link to deal with the beasts by himself. Unfortunately, he cannot. No matter what the players do, they cannot defeat them. If one Shadow Beast is left alive, it will roar and revive its fallen comrades. Link cannot kill all 3 Shadow Beasts at once. It is impossible at this point of the game. After a while, Midna will return and grant Link a new ability. If Link holds B, a dark circle of energy forms around him. Any enemy touched by the circle will be targeted by Midna. Once the player lets go of the button, Link will leap through all the targeted enemies, instantly killing them. At least that's what's supposed to happen. On rare occasions, Link will miss one. Once all 3 Shadow Beasts are defeated, they burst into those square particles, and another blue portal forms in the sky. At the spring, the faint remains of the spirit Faron ask Link to destroy the creatures that hold its stolen light, and to collect that light. The creatures that hold the light are bugs. Each stolen piece of light is known as a tear of light, and they're collected within a vessel of light which is granted by the spirit. The shadow insects that hold the tears of light are marked on the map for Link to find. Aonuma told Nintendo Dream in 2007, these tears of light segments were added to the game to bring some dungeon-like gameplay to the overworld. I don't really think it was all that successful. I find each of these segments to be a slog. There really isn't anything dungeon-like about this first segment as well. Later segments will bring in some light puzzle solving, which probably fits the dungeon-like bill a lot better, but none of them are particularly good. The insects are only visible when using Link's wolf senses. A small few hide in the ground and need to be dug up first in order to reach them. The Faron Woods are now filled with a poisonous gas, and so players must use Midna's jump to cross it. In the original GameCube and Wii version, Link was tasked with killing 16 insects and claiming their tears of light. In the HD version, this was scaled back to 12. I also noticed collecting the tears themselves seems to be easier in the HD version. There seems to be a stronger magnetic pull in that version towards Link. The final bugs are found just outside the Forest Temple, in the same location where Tallow and the monkey were caged up earlier. When we defeat the bugs, the monkey that we saved from the cage notes that strange things have been happening in the woods lately. Monsters have appeared, kids have been kidnapped, and the boss of the monkeys is going funny in the head. Once all the bugs are rounded up, Link is transported to Faron Spring, and the spring is restored. Light returns to the land. Midna again becomes a shadow, and Faron, the light spirit, appears. Faron resembles a monkey. The spirit explains that the light transforming Link into a wolf in the Twilight is a sign that he has the powers of the Chosen One. Link has awakened as a hero, and now wears the classic green tunic, along with the hat of Link's past. The spirit says this very tunic was once worn by an ancient hero chosen by the gods. The implication is that he's referring to the Hero of Time from Ocarina of Time, though it's never said outright. Link is the new chosen hero. Faron states that dark forbidden power is hidden within the forest temple. He says it shouldn't be touched by beings of light, but Link has no choice. The power of the King of Twilight must be matched, and so Link is directed to head to the temple. Midna mentions that the temple is her goal as well. Link departs. The gate to Faron Woods is locked. Players need to speak to Koro, the lantern salesman, to get a key. He hands it over, no questions asked, no tasks required. Koro mentions the lantern will be essential for getting through the poison fog that now fills the forest. He offers to sell Link a bottle of oil for 100 rupees. I didn't have 100 rupees in my GameCube playthrough, so I spent some time rounding them up, but we make a deal and net our second bottle of the game. In the forest, Link is met by the same monkey we've met 2 times now. We know it's the same because she wears a flower on her head. She takes Link's lantern and leads him through a winding path through the poison fog. It's somewhat like the Poe guide from the Haunted Wasteland in Ocarina of Time, or the seahorse guiding Link through the bay in Majora's Mask. We occasionally have to defeat enemies in order to keep her moving forward. We must also match her pace. If we move too far, she may get stuck behind us and will continue to motion for Link to follow her, even though we are already ahead of her. After we pass the fog, the monkey will drop the lantern. It's empty when we recollect it, but we can refill it with the oil that we just bought. Then it's on to the dungeon. As we make our way there, we notice an unusual sight. There appears to be a bridge laid vertically against a wall. We'll make note of this for later. Just outside the dungeon, we're stopped by another unusual sight. A wolf with a glowing gold color and a single red eye. It pounces on Link, and he finds himself transported to another realm. The ground is covered in mist. The castle seems to jut out of this mist like the ground is a low fog. The golden wolf howls and transforms, becoming a ghostly knight. Its armor is of a golden color, its helmet topped with 3 horns. Its face is a skull with a single red glowing eye. Other parts of its body, such as its arms and midsection, are faint and clearly intangible. Its shield is cracked and covered with ivy. Its sword is still bright and sharp. This is the hero's shade. The shade says that Link may be destined to be a hero, but his skills are a disgrace to the tunic he wears. The shade says that if Link finds and wields true courage, he'll be able to learn the skills that the shade has and wishes to pass on. The shade teaches 7 hidden skills. They are additional attacks and combat abilities for Link. This first one is required. All others are technically optional. I suspect there is some influence from the Minish Cap and ultimately Zelda 2 here. Those games also had new combat abilities for Link to learn. But Aonuma told Nintendo Dream in 2007, the idea came from the Wind Waker. He said the Shade has a special connection with him. That comes from the A-button reaction attacks from the Wind Waker, he said. Many people worked on this game and I entrusted them with the events and dialogues. But I wanted to include something of my very own. So I wrote the script for the Skeleton Warrior that teaches you the hidden skills. He's my child inside the game. He laughed. The musical theme for the hidden skill training is a more majestic arrangement of the training music we heard when we got a tutorial for the sword and slingshot. It also marks another appearance of what I call Link's courage theme. The first skill is the Ending Blow, an attack that allows Link to leap into a fallen enemy while driving his sword through them and killing them. It is visually somewhat similar to Zelda 2's Downward Thrust, but functionally entirely different. This was apparently Shigeru Miyamoto's favorite skill in the game, and it is given first because of Miyamoto's love for it. After teaching the skill, the Shade explains that Link should search for statues that howl with the sound of the wind and call him. This will allow him to unlock the next skill. The Shade then departs, and Link awakens on the ground where he was when the Golden Wolf first pounced on him. We then go inside the first dungeon of the game. The music of the Forest Temple is anchored by an arpeggio. It's played on something like a marimba. The general movement of it actually reminds me of the second segment of Ganon's Tower from the Wind Waker. Though it's lower in tone, see what you think. Here's the illusion theme from Ganon's Tower. And here's the Forest Temple. Deep strings provide a slow melody that adds to a sense of darkness, but not in a way that is at all scary. Perhaps the most interesting thing about this theme is a strange discordant melody that comes in a little more than a minute in. It's played on some kind of wind instrument. Three awkward notes come in around 1 minute 8 seconds. They're followed by what seems to be a quote of the Ballad of Gale from the Wind Waker. The rest of the melody seems to be unique, however. It's perhaps just a coincidence, but take a listen. Here's the Ballad of Gale's. And here's that potential quote from the Forest theme. Again, it could just be a coincidence, but I think the dungeon item will add some credence to that being a quote. The dungeon itself is only a single floor. At least on the map it is. There are a couple of rooms that seem tall enough to actually warrant a second floor. This is a much bigger dungeon than the map may suggest. It's something that Eiji Aonuma mentioned in his 2007 interview with Nintendo Dream. He said, "Regarding the scale, there's another important factor, the wind. We were able to create small valleys inside dungeons where the wind blew through, which contributed to the larger scale feeling. Aonuma uses the plural valleys there, but there's really only one valley. The dungeon actually takes place in 2 gigantic hollowed-out trees. There's an outdoor area in between them, and the trees are so large that the outdoor area is essentially a valley. The dungeon is further divided into roughly 3 sections. The first section is brief, but it sets up the initial goal of the dungeon. The second section begins with the introduction of the mini-boss, and the third section follows after the mini-boss. I also think this dungeon may perhaps be the best example in the game of a stated goal of enemy designer Yoshiyuki Oyama. He wrote in Nintendo Power in 2005, "I try to be very careful to create monsters that enhance the sense of pacing and adventure at each phase of the game. For example, let's say you've just beaten a small enemy. Later on, you should possibly meet with that same kind of foe, but larger. If you continue to beat those, you should eventually meet up with a massive version of those creatures. This kind of progression helps create a story-like feeling, even when it's simply battling through levels. We'll notice that progression in terms of enemies growing in scale throughout the dungeon, particularly with the various versions of the Deku Baba. We first encounter a standard blue Deku Baba, then a larger, tougher Baba Serpent, then a Big Baba, a giant version of the Deku Baba. Then the boss Dia Baba is also a variant on the Deku Baba enemy. In the very first room of the dungeon, we find the monkey which wears a flower. She's trapped in a cage again. When we free her, she climbs a vine-covered wall and beckons Link to follow. If this wasn't obvious enough, Midna also points it out. This sets up the main gimmick of the dungeon. Link progresses through the temple by finding and freeing and getting help from monkeys. It's probably the most extensive example in the game of Link getting help from animals. We have to clear a couple Waltalas off a vine-covered wall before we can follow. Like in Ocarina of Time, we take them out with a slingshot. Then we climb up the vines. It's worth noting that the HD version makes a major improvement with Link's climbing speed when on vines. He climbs incredibly slowly in the original game. The HD version wisely sped this up. The doors of the dungeon are circular, and they're marked with a swirling design that was seen on the Deku Shield in Ocarina of Time, and on the doors of the Forbidden Woods in the Wind Waker. It's worth noting that in past games, doors generally opened on their own when interacted with, but in Twilight Princess, Link typically interacts with the doors to open them. Aonuma said there was a surprising origin for this detail. He told Nintendo Dream, "Once we included the goat-throwing move, all the developers started getting so familiar with it in such a way that it was just natural when we thought of it when Link was standing before a dungeon entrance. And then we had him open the entrance door with his hands, using his strength." The second room of the dungeon serves as the central room of the first and second dungeon segments. We find Deku Babas, the Twilight Princess version of Skulltulas in this room, and explosive insects known as bombelings. We can use one of them to find a hidden treasure chest. The central platform has a treasure chest above it suspended by a spider web, but it's out of reach for now. There are also 4 torches. We light them and steps raise up from the floor, allowing us to access a door on the north end of the room. A chest on the landing has the dungeon map inside. Through the door to the north, we find a rickety-looking suspension bridge. The monkey immediately begins to cross, only for a larger monkey to come rushing out on the far side. It holds a boomerang, which it throws to cut down the ropes of the bridge, causing it to fall. The monkey that's been helping us manages to hold on and climb back up on the near side, while the monkey on the far side taunts us and then disappears. This larger monkey is the boss of the monkeys and the mini-boss of the dungeon. The bridge to him is now inaccessible, and the second segment of the dungeon begins. It's all about rounding up 3 additional monkeys to help us reach the mini-boss. The monkey once again leads us to the door and begins beckoning Link to follow. Midna again appears and urges us to follow the monkey. We go back into the central room for this first segment. The path takes us to 2 wings of the dungeon, one to the east and one to the west. Which direction you head first depends on the version, obviously. In the non-mirrored GameCube version, we head east. The monkey hangs from a rope over a gap that is too big to jump, and we use the monkey to swing across. Through the door that the monkey led us to, we immediately run into a fork in the road. We can see on the map that the path to the north quickly leads to a dead end, which is all the reason to head that way. We find a bombling standing in front of some destructible boulders. Once the boulders are cleared, we see a strange creature that is sticking its head in and out of a pot. When we break the pot, it's revealed to be one of the most bizarre creatures ever featured in a Zelda game. Her name is Uku. She has the body of a chicken, but a head that is almost human. Almost. She's bald and the back of her head is unusually long and comes to a point. Her eyes are featureless and staring. She's friendly nonetheless. Uku is in the dungeon looking for something, though she does not say what. She agrees to help Link on his adventure. Uku is essentially an item. She can warp Link outside a dungeon, and then return him to the last door that he passed through when he returns. I did not use her at all on my very first playthrough of this game, but on the many playthroughs since, I have started to make use of her. She is helpful if you need to stop playing before a dungeon is over, or if you need to restock mid-dungeon. Aonuma explained how Uku came to be in his 2007 interview with Nintendo Dream. He said, "We wanted an item to warp the player out of the dungeons easily, but before we could notice it, it had turned into Uku." He laughed. He continued, "At first we thought of introducing something like a magic sphere inside a pot for the player to use, but we considered it dull, and so we created this item that links to a dungeon of the second half of the game. I won't mention any details as to not spoil the story, but you'll solve the mystery later." Art director Satoru Takizawa said Uku's design is based on a doodle from illustrator Yusuke Nakano. He made it during a meeting. Takizawa said, "Then we had this exchange where Nakano-san said to me, 'Take a look at what I came up with.' I had a look and said, 'Let's go with it.'" I have seen several people state that Uku and the other creatures like her, known as the Uka, are based off an M.C. Escher print, known as Another World or Otherworld. It does indeed feature birds with human-like heads in it, though I've come across no official confirmation that this is the actual inspiration. The assumption seems to be based on the visual appearance alone, though Escher was not the first person to come up with such a creature. Ancient Greek mythology, for instance, features the harpy, a creature with the body of a bird and the head of a woman. Likewise, according to the North Carolina Museum of Art, Escher based his creature off a statue of a Simurgh, which he received as a gift. A Simurgh is a mythological bird of Persian origin. It is sometimes depicted with a human face. The statue given to Escher appears in other prints of his as well. Further, the Hyrule Historia asserts that Uku resembles the art of Italian artist Amedeo Modigliani. There is no reference provided to support this claim. Modigliani primarily painted portraits, although he also made sculptures. He has a unique style that is flat, and gives his subjects elongated necks and facial features. Uku's head and neck proportions do seem similar to his work, though it hardly seems like definitive proof. The translator of the Nintendo Dream interview notes that Uku is referred to as Oba-chan in Japanese, and states that it literally means lady. Aonuma was able to provide no reason for the name. He said that's simply how a writer, he did not name who specifically, began referring to her in the scripts. This also explains an exchange in an Iwata Asks interview, in which Nintendo president Satoru Iwata asked the staff about the name. Sub-director Shinichi Ikematsu replied, "It's kind of a mystery." This was apparently followed by a long, awkward pause, which caused Iwata to crack a joke before ending the interview. Let's get back to the dungeon. Heading the opposite direction from where we found Uku, we find another room. The lower level of it is filled with water. There are several platforms that we can jump between to cross the water. Through a door to the north, we enter a valley between the trees. Here we're introduced to bridges which are topped with small wind turbines. The wind blows at regular intervals, turning the turbines and causing the bridge to rotate 90 degrees. We need to cross the bridge to the north and pass through a door to get a key from a chest. We can't continue north because there's another turbine-topped bridge, which is rotated the wrong way, but we're inside again and we have no wind to power it. So we backtrack and follow the monkey to a locked door and proceed through it. We find a monkey inside a cage which sits atop a totem pole. A bridge collapses behind Link as we make our way towards the monkey, trapping us in this room until we solve the puzzle of freeing the monkey. The solution is just to roll into the totem pole and jostle it enough that the cage falls and breaks. There are a few totem poles like this in the first room of the dungeon with pots on top, so players may have figured this out earlier. If not, however, this room makes sure that players figure out and understand that they need to roll into totems to jostle them. This knowledge is essential for completing the dungeon. With the monkey free, we can backtrack. Both monkeys hang over the gap, and we have to swing between them. Once back in the main room, the monkey that we just freed posts up on the opposite side and allows us to swing across. We find ourselves in a highly vertical room. On the ground, we find a stronger variant of the Deku Baba, the Baba Serpent. These will slither towards Link after their stem is severed. There's also a new variant on the classic Zelda enemy, the Like, called a Deku-like. Unlike the Like, these enemies stay anchored in place. They are carnivorous plants which will chew on Link before spitting him out. There are two monkeys located in this wing, each in a separate room. One to the south on the upper level, and one to the east or west, depending on the version. We take on the latter room first. We climb the stairs and throw a conveniently placed bombling into the mouth of a Deku-like on the first landing of the stairs in order to defeat it. This allows us to cross a gap. Another bombling is needed to clear a boulder from a door. Through the door we find a large room split into two levels. The monkey's behind a locked gate on the upper level. The key is inside a treasure chest atop a totem pole. The stairs to reach the cage are retracted into the floor. Players need to light 4 torches to raise them all, but they also need to avoid tiles with worm enemies hidden underneath. This to me seems to be a nod to the flying titles of past games, though they are functionally quite different. Once the monkey is freed, players can backtrack out of the room and head for the southern room. To the south on the upper level, there's a second gap to jump over. A vine-covered wall is on the other side. It has Waltalas on it. Once the spiders are taken out, players can leap the gap and then climb the vine to reach the southern door. The third and final monkey of the segment's behind a locked gate on the far side of the room. The key is out in the open at first, but a Big Baba eats it and drops it into a Deku-like which it's attached to. The Big Baba is classified as a standard enemy, at least based on the music, but it does feel a little bit like a mini-boss. Players need to dodge its lunging attacks and land hits. It took 4 or so hits for me to defeat the Big Baba. The Deku-like it was attached to then opens its mouth. We throw a conveniently placed bombling inside and get the key to free the monkey. Just outside the south room, there's another conveniently placed bombling which we throw down a gap to reach the Deku-like on the lowest level of the room. With it gone, we can access a chest with the first of 2 heart pieces hidden inside. Each dungeon in Twilight Princess contains 2 heart pieces. With 4 monkeys now freed, we can return to the central room and then head north. The monkeys will hang from the rope spanning the valley, and players can reach the mini-boss. The mini-boss is the boss of the monkeys, a baboon named Ook. He's armed with a boomerang. He also has his own unique boss theme. The Wind Waker introduced unique themes for each boss. Twilight Princess expands on the idea and includes a few unique themes for mini-bosses as well, though a number of the mini-bosses will share music. Ook's theme features heavy jungle drums and a lively off-kilter melody. I can't totally place the instrument that it's placed on. It sounds like a reed instrument that strikes me as being Indian. It gives way to guitar and flute. It's fun and silly, much like this boss. In the center of the arena, there's a ring of totem poles, with one in the center. Baba serpents hang from the ceiling outside the totem poles. Ook leaps between the totems. occasionally pausing to throw the boomerang either at Link or to cut down a Baba serpent from the ceiling. When he pauses and throws the boomerang, we can roll into the totem and knock Ook off balance. If the timing is right, the boomerang will hit him and knock him to the ground. We can then wail away, hitting Ook's butt to deal damage. After a few rounds, Ook is defeated. With the final hit, it becomes clear why Ook was behaving so strangely. A large insect was latched onto his head. As soon as the bug is gone, Ook regains consciousness and is startled by Link's presence, then flees. The boomerang is left behind. As Link makes a move for it, the boomerang rises from the ground. It's seemingly held up by a whirlwind. A voice which identifies itself as the Fairy of the Winds says it lives inside the boomerang. It grants Link her power, and we receive the Gale boomerang. The boomerang is of course a classic Zelda item, but this one has a twist. It has wind powers which are used for wind-specific mechanics. It also behaves slightly differently than past boomerangs. Rather than destroying certain small enemies and causing others to briefly freeze in place, it will open an enemy's guard or pull certain small enemies towards Link. The targeting of the Wind Waker's boomerang even makes a return, though the targeting system here was modified. Players need to hit the target button in order to lock it on to a target. It's slower and more clunky than the Wind Waker system, but it is functional, and an improvement over boomerangs without a lock-on feature. To escape the room, we need to use the wind to power a turbine above the door. It takes multiple throws even if we target it or try to vary the targets. Once we leave the mini-boss room, we can use the boomerang to align a pair of bridges, and reach a previously inaccessible platform to the east or west depending on the version. We find another monkey in a cage. It's suspended by a spider web. We use the boomerang to cut the cage down and free the monkey. After it's freed, Midna encourages us to save all the remaining monkeys of the dungeon, just to see what we get. This begins the third segment of the dungeon, centered around finding the remaining monkeys in order to reach the boss room. Heading south from the cage, we can use the boomerang to align bridges, and reach that highly vertical room where we found the Deku-likes and the first Baba serpents. If we return to the room with the worms under the tiles, we can use the boomerang to pull the worms from the ground, allowing us to easily defeat them. We can also extinguish the torches used to raise the stairs and reach the second heart piece of the dungeon. In the central room from that first segment, we use the boomerang to cut the chest suspended by a spider web from the ceiling. Inside we find the compass. This will make it easier to find the rest of the monkeys. We then head to the water-filled room. On the south side, on the opposite corner from where we enter, we find 4 turbines in front of a large gate. Behind this is the big key chest. The turbines have to be hit in the correct order to open the gate. We need to notice a Z shape on the floor connecting the turbines to know the correct order. We then head to the north and enter the other tree. We collected a key here earlier, but we couldn't go any further. With the boomerang, however, we can. We turn the bridge and proceed. We first head north and we see the freed monkeys are gathering just outside the boss door. Midna reiterates that we need to free all of the remaining monkeys. There are 3 remaining. One is in the room to the east or west of the boss antechamber, depending on the version. And there are 2 monkeys in the rooms east and west in the room to the south with a rotating bridge. Notably, in the room off the boss antechamber, we need to use the boomerang and its targeting abilities to pick up a bombling and destroy a rock on a high ledge. Grabbing and targeting bomblings with the boomerang will be important for defeating the boss. Let's move on to the boss. On the north side of the arena there sits a poisoned pool. A few logs float in the water with bomblings perched on them. 2 massive Deku Baba heads emerge from the pool. This is the Twilight parasite Diababa. The fight is broken up into 2 segments, each with their own music. The first fight is against the 2 heads that emerge from the water. The boss music has a driving, pulsing rhythm that's accentuated by a big descending horn line. The theme is then brought back up as flutes and stabbing strings trade ascending lines before quickly walking up and then down again. To defeat the heads, we need to use the Boomerang and its targeting ability to guide the bombling into the mouths of the heads. Once each head eats a bombling, it descends back under the water. Once both heads have descended, the second phase begins. A third, much larger head with an eye on the tip of its tongue emerges from the water, along with the two previous heads. A new musical theme begins. This one also has a pulsing bass line, but the melody is primarily played on flute. Brief quotes of the advantageous theme are worked in, broken up by discordant strings. There are also brief quotes of Ook's theme. The logs which held the bombings are sunk. After a few moments, Ook appears in a small doorway above the arena. He reaches back into the door and emerges with a bombling. Ook will zipline back and forth across the arena. We need to target the bombling and send it at Diababa. We first take out the two smaller heads before hitting the largest head in the center. When it falls to the floor, we can wail away at its weak spot, the eye on the tongue. When this damage phase begins, the music dynamically shifts to the advantageous theme, or as I refer to it, Link's Courage theme. This shift in music not only signals the start of the damage phase, but it makes players feel as if they've gained the upper hand. We'll see the shift to the advantageous theme during the damage phase for a majority of bosses in the game. After 3 rounds or so, Diababa falls. It bursts into square Twilight particles, which reform into an object that perhaps resembles a fragmented piece of armor. It vaguely resembles Midna's helmet. She says it's the object she is after. It's known as a fused shadow. It's the dark power that the light spirit referred to. Midna says that there are 3 fused shadows that she's looking for. The remaining 2 light spirits will know the locations of the other 2. Midna suggests that she might tell Link what the fused shadows are for if he helps her attain the other 2. She creates a portal that teleports Link out of the dungeon. Link is transported to Faron Spring. The spirit directs Link to the land protected by the spirit Eldon, in order to free the land from Twilight and get the next fused shadow. We'll do that next week. If you want to follow along, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you. You're awesome. Thanks for sticking around for the whole episode and for the series. I'm Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.